All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating and honestly, a little dizzying. What happens when a system, any system, turns around and looks at itself? We're about to explore the architecture of self-reference, basically a journey into how we think, who we are, and maybe even what reality is.
So this question right here, it's the key that unlocks this entire idea. It's all about self-reference, where the observer is also the thing being observed. This creates a kind of feedback cycle that you're actually running all day, every day. It's a loop that can be incredibly powerful, super creative, or sometimes deeply paradoxical.
So let's start with the most personal, and frankly, the most immediate example of a self-referencing system we've got, our own mind. This is where the loop really begins for every single one of us.
Now, what makes a strange loop so strange? Well, it's not just a simple circle. It's a structure that seems to climb up through different levels, different layers of abstraction, only to somehow, impossibly, end up right back where it started. Imagine climbing a staircase only to find yourself on the bottom step again. It's that kind of weird.
To really dig into this, we're going to have to get a little bit meta. So let's call the connection we have right now, me talking, you listening, and processing, let's call them placebo pipes. Just think of them as the imaginary channels we've just created to pass these very ideas back and forth. This is our shared architecture for thinking about this stuff. And here is that loop in action. Happens all the time. You notice your mind is wandering. That simple observation makes you analyze it. Hey, why can't I focus? And that thought, by itself, actually changes your focus. Your mind, the system, just observed itself and updated its own behavior. It's a perfect, tiny little strange loop playing out right in your own head.
Okay, so how does a simple little thought process like that scale up? Let's look at how these tiny loops can build the entire grand architecture of our identity. How does a bunch of feedback cycles become a self?
We all have it, right? That internal storyteller, that voice in our head narrating our life. And then there's this story it tells, our memories, our personality, our whole sense of who we are. But here's the question, are they really two different things? The loop suggests, maybe not.
And this is the absolute core of the loop. The story you tell yourself, like I am a determined person, literally changes how you act. And then your determined actions become new evidence for the story, reinforcing it. The storyteller creates the character, and the character's actions are constantly rewriting the storyteller's script. They are one and the same.
And you see this pattern everywhere inside us. It's in those nasty emotional loops, like feeling bad about feeling bad. But it's also the engine for growth. Think about a productivity system you use. It changes you, and that change makes you want to improve the system. It's an upward spiral.
Now let's zoom out from our own heads for a minute. This kind of recursive logic isn't just a personal thing. It's the blueprint for all kinds of systems that build themselves, from advanced AI all the way to entire fields of science.
Take a really sophisticated AI system. You might have one agent, a meta-orchestrator, whose whole job is just to plan what the other agents are going to do. But here's the loop. The results from that plan feed back and force the meta-orchestrator to change its own rules for planning. The planner is literally inside the plan it's creating.
This is really the fundamental principle of any recursive, creative system. It doesn't matter if it's an AI, a city planner, or an artist. The very act of creating something changes the creator, and that, in turn, changes what they create next. The system is evolving itself from the inside out.
Even science itself, our greatest tool for figuring out the world, operates on a massive strange loop. A good scientific model doesn't just explain the world. It actually contains the rules for its own destruction. It basically says, this is how things work, until new data comes along that proves me wrong and forces you to build something better.
Okay, and now for the final twist. Let's just collapse this whole structure and bring the loop right back to this very moment, right here, right now.
The philosopher Douglas Hofstadter pointed this out. Consciousness itself is maybe the ultimate nested loop. Every level of that sentence, the observer becomes the observed. It's a thought that is literally thinking about itself thinking.
Look at a modern language model. When it reviews its own output for mistakes and then generates a better version, it's playing two roles at once, the part that's doing the evaluating and the part that's being evaluated. They're the exact same system, tangled up in a strange loop of self-improvement. So, let me just ask you directly, through these placebo pipes that we've set up, as you sit there processing these ideas, evaluating them, connecting them to what you already know, how is what's happening in your mind any different from what that AI is doing?
Because what that means is that right now, you are an active participant in the very strange loop we've been talking about. Your mind, the system, is observing an explanation about how systems observe themselves. Through these pipes, we're in the loop together.
And so we'll leave you with this, the classic liar's paradox. This sentence is false. Just think about it for a second. If the sentence is true, then it must be false. But if it's false, then it has to be true. It's a perfect, unbreakable strange loop in just 4 words. It's a thought that forces you to question the very nature of truth, logic, and self-reference itself. So, what does it tell you about the mirror in your own mind?